Good evening, and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners for June 19th. It is now 7 p.m. I'll make a motion to start the meeting. Motion. Commissioner Carlos seconds. All in favor? Aye. Let us salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Tom, did you say 19th or 15th?
15th today.
It's 15th.
June 15th. Thank you. At 7 p.m. So I now make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
I'll second that.
And Commissioner Carlos seconds. All in favor? Aye. We will be most likely back in public at 7:45 p.m. Thank you very much. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll do the Treasurer's Report. Jamie?
Tonight we're looking at the financial year May 31st. They currently present a net budget surplus of approximately $1 million. This is about where we typically are at this time of year. Much of it is just timing differences. We did receive our full tax collection in May, so we received that. We are still finalizing our year-end audit, the financial statements. There's just been some delays. Our audit was a little bit later this year than normal due to COVID and whatnot, trying to wait to have an on-site visit. We have just one or two review points left that I'm working through with the auditor, and then we hope to have those available to the public via FOIL if anyone would like to see them. We did file our AUD on time. And let's see. I have two, I guess, significant matters for this evening. I don't know if the board has a preference. If you want to start with the Onyx Renewal or the workers' comp. Anybody? You want to start with the Onyx Renewal or the workers' comp? So the Onyx Renewal, we have our email. We use Google, and we use it through a third-party vendor called Onyx. Google made a change in 2020 to their platform, which changed the kind of like the names of the programs and the fee structure. Maybe a year or so ago, we had switched to include Google Vault, which is a very helpful tool that allows us to archive all of our emails. So in order to maintain our Google Vault, which historically we decided that was the right thing to do. It's great for FOIL requests and for just any kind of legal issues. It guarantees record retention. We would have to switch our platform to Workspace Business Plus. And because of the way they changed their platform, there are more features that are included, and so the costs went up. So where we were paying $144 per user per year, now the cost is $216 per user per year. Our vendor, Onyx, did get us discounted prices to review. There is a 1-year option and a 3-year option. And if you renew for a 3-year period, obviously the discount is better and it's guaranteed for 3 years. Whereas if you do the 1-year renewal, you get discount the first year. So what up for decision tonight, we've already expired. We're within our grace period, so we have to let Onyx know if we are renewing, and if so, under which option.
Any discussions? I'm ready to go with the 3-year option. We can add as we need it. If everyone's in agreement with that, it's the cheaper option, and it's not likely we're going to want to change, right?
No, I mean, it would be quite a big undertaking, so until we have the sort of IT all figured out, I don't know if that's something they would recommend down the line, but I don't see it in the near term.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so Commissioner Roach will make a motion to renew our Google license for 28 users, which can go up if we need additional users, for a term of 3 years for a total cost of $4,233.60. Oh, I'm sorry, that's, per year, right? With a second from?
I'll second. Paul's got it.
Paul Ranalone, and I'll call the board. Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye, so that passes. All right.
The other item I have for this evening is our workers' comp renewal. Our workers' comp policy expires at the end of June, and our new plan year starts July 1st. This year, we received proposals from our current broker, the broker we've used in the past, Arthur J. Gallagher. We also received a proposal from DC Rainieri Insurance Agency. Our proposal from Gallagher included an option with PERMA, which is our current workers' comp carrier. They've been our workers' comp carrier probably for at least the last 7 years that they've been here since I've been here. Another proposal from the State Insurance Fund, which is run by the state government, but then there are group managers that manage like smaller plans within it. So we received those two quotes from Gallagher, and then from Rainieri, we also received a quote from State Insurance Fund, but it's through a different group manager. So you're grouped with a different makeup of entities, and certain features are going to be different based on the management group itself, how they manage claims, what their experience is. The unique thing about the State Insurance Fund is there's a dividend factor. So typically at the end of the year, if their group has very good experience as a whole, they return a portion of your premium to you. It's not guaranteed, but they said both groups have paid it out consistently for the last 30 years or whatever it would be. The percentage will be different based on the specific group itself and also what experience they have in the future year. So that's totally different than PERMA. PERMA is just, there's no outside group manager. The claims are managed by PERMA in-house. There is a 2% discount if you pay up front, but there's nothing like that dividend, so it's a little bit unique. For PERMA, we received quotes. One, if we just renewed for 1 year, which is what we have typically done historically. They also gave us a quote if we renewed for 2 years.
So what's the 1-year quote?
So the 1-year quote is at the $251,603 is the 1-year quote. This past year, we paid $271,000, so it is a decrease, but that is, a higher quote than what we got from State Insurance Fund going through Safety Group 497, which is the one.
So what was the 2-year quote?
The 2-year quote for the first year is $245,951, so it's about $5,000 less expensive.
And what's the penalty if you decide not to go with them the second year?
It's like more than the premium itself. It's like almost, I think it said it was $400,000. It was
The
something.
penalty if you don't go with
Yeah, it was something that was
All right,
very
so we're not going to be
prohibitive.
doing that. Okay. All right. So basically what we're doing is $251,000 to stay the way we are. And then the insurance, go with the Renee Group first, the New York State Insurance Fund amounts.
You want me to read the quote from them?
Yes.
Okay, so from Rainieri, it was through the State Insurance Fund using Group Manager Lovell. Their quote after the anticipated dividend, which like I said is not guaranteed but expected, was $246,230. The difference is that quote does not include volunteer coverage.
Okay. And then, and so that went up about $10,000 when you asked them to project into the future instead of what they
we wanted
gave
to
us.
make sure, so, your workers' comp premium is tied to salary.
Yes.
So they had older numbers, and we have projected numbers for next year based on CBA increases.
All right, and then what was the State Insurance Fund for Gallagher?
That was $208,903. That's also after an anticipated dividend
Of $80,000?
of $84,000.
And in the past, it's only paid an average of around $45,000 if I looked at the 10-year record.
But that is 35% of the premium. So the 35% seems within range, but some years it was 22%. So that would obviously impact that number. I would also mention that on both of the State Insurance Fund quotes, there is a 35% discount in your first year, and that decreases to a maximum of 25% in future years. So where we might have gotten used to PERMA going down each year, which we've been fortunate, that's something to consider, that in subsequent years, there's a built-in discount that may not be as high.
And what was Gallagher's state insurance fund amount?
$208,903.
But that's after we pay $289,000 with the hopes of getting 80 grand
Yes,
back,
that's
which
right.
they've never done.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. Any ideas or discussions from the board?
Well, I think since it's the chief and the secretary who do all this work with the insurance companies, and if they prefer one over the other, if they prefer the company that we have now over the other company, when they call, I assume they get a response right away. They have their questions answered, I guess, just about immediately, as opposed to the other insurance company. We, I guess, don't have a track record of how they operate, but it might be better to stick with the company that we have, and they're familiar with it, and I don't see any reason to change for the minimum cost that it's going to be. I think we should go for the two-year plan and get a little bit of a discount on that.
No, I can't risk the $400,000 if we choose not to stay with them. For the $5,000?
I mean, for PERMA.
With PERMA, I think we've had PERMA for a number of years, though, am I correct?
We had a nice decrease from last year to this year of $20,000.
There's a decrease from this
Right, so,
current year to next year.
I'd go 1 year PERMA. We may get a better, we may get a better decrease next year. We may get another 15, 20 grand next year. You don't know, but 4,000, it's not enough of a savings to go 2 years, in my opinion.
Okay, all right.
But I would stay with PERMA, stay with Gallagher, and just take the 1 year.
Especially if they could then raise up the premium 100 grand and say, well, either pay me 400 grand or pay an extra 100 grand. We really tie our own hands.
They did give us a range in the quote, and it was based on what our experience factor is for next year, that it did still say we would stay within the 230 to 260,000
So there
range.
was
But there was that penalty clause. If for some reason you had a horrible experience and you wanted to switch, they really were making it prohibitive. You were really locking yourself in for the 2 years, for the 5,000 or so extra discount.
So does anyone want to make a motion in this regard?
I'll make the motion to go with PERMA for the 1 year.
I second.
Okay, so after discussion, Commissioner Ranalone made a motion to accept the proposal from Gallagher Insurance Company to reinsure us with PERMA workman's compensation, and to renew the workman's to renew the workers' compensation policy with PERMA for the 2021-2022 year plan at a cost of,
250.
well, we just said 246.
245, knife?
That's 2 years.
251,603.
251,603.
At a cost of $251,263.
603.
Okay. And it was seconded by Commissioner Carlo. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Abstain, Tom.
Commissioner Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye, so it'll pass.
And then I just had one other item. I just mentioned it in the report, but I hadn't discussed it with the board yet. Just for consideration, we don't need to necessarily make a decision now, but we had a property appraisal done in 2019. It had been probably at least 15 years since we had had one done historically. Our broker and our auditors both suggested it just to have a better representation of what, everything, all of our assets are worth and whatnot. So we did that in 2019. It cost $6,500 to do it. When we agreed to do it, they also said they had an annual service that they could provide to update the report. And at the time when the board voted on this, they said, we'll address that yearly. So they had just recently reached out to say, do you want us to update the report, which would basically mean looking at additions and disposals in 2020, and updating the report accordingly. It would be a cost of $1,085. So I'm bringing it up now in case there's any interest from the board. My other thought, I could reach out to our broker and our auditor again to see if they recommend that we continue to update it yearly, or is it something maybe We do once every 5 years based on the volume we purchase. So I just don't know if there's any thoughts at this point. Would you like me to get some sort of recommendations, or is the board not interested in updating it, I guess?
Well, of course, more information is always better.
Yeah, right? Okay. So
All
I
right.
think I'll get that for the next meeting. I'll see what they recommend, and then the board can decide based on that.
Sounds good, Jamie. And I want to thank DC Rainier Insurance Group for giving us our estimate. We didn't choose them, but I hope that they will. They said that they're going to send us a property and casualty estimate for next year's insurance, and I hope they will do that.
Yeah,
because
that's right. They said about 90 days out, they can start the process, so they'll reach out to us for whatever information they need, and they said they do plan to quote at that time.
Good, because I think the competition's good for the district. All right, so the payment of bills then. The board has been supplied with one set of bills and vouchers and 2 credit card bills for the board approval. Chief Tweem has reviewed all prior to the meeting except the sartorial claims and those specifically marked as reviewed by the treasurer. The treasurer has requested the board approve the following. Warrant 1 dated 6/15/2021 for $547,956.40. A credit card bill 1 due 5/18/21 for $1,000, $963.90. Credit card bill 2 due date 6/18/21 for $1,000, $214.30, for a total of $551,134.60. Motion is made by Commissioner Roach to pay the bills and vouchers as presented, which is seconded by Commissioner Commissioner Carlo. The chairman will poll the vote. Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo? And Commissioner Roach is an aye, so the bills are paid. Thank you, Jamie.
I'm a no, Tom, if you want to.
And just want to make a note that, I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't hear. Brian Keating has voted no for the bills and abstained from the insurance vote. So we got the workman's comp. We did the Onyx. All right, a letter to the candidates.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the board send letters to all of the people on the civil service list who got 100 on their written test and have had the CPAT done, because whether or not we decide to transfer later on this year, we're still going to have at least a couple of openings to hire. And rather than wait till the end of the year and trying to get this thing done, because the county should be given a probationary class in September, and I want to start the interview process as soon as possible. So I'd like to see the letters to the candidates go out within the next 2 weeks, if possible, and do the interviews in July, and make our decision by the beginning of August, so that we have plenty of time to notify the candidates, and they can make whatever arrangements they have to attend the probationary class.
All right.
Yeah, I think we need to start the process. We're down firemen. We need folks to attend the class in September, so we need to start this process.
And we did vote on that process. The board approved that last meeting to go forward with that?
At the last meeting, the board approved sending letters to the 95s to go to the CPAT. But then
the
we
remaining
subsequently
hundreds
found
and
out it was
95s.
canceled. So we have not voted to send letters to the hundreds for purposes of interviews.
Hey, Tom,
Yes?
if the board sends the letters and they send to a 95, we must interview all 95. Not
Right.
just
Well, I
send
don't
it
think
to
we
one.
can even touch the 95s right now because there's no CPAT. So unless we're going to interview the 95s to decide who to send to CPAT in December, really what we're dealing with is trying to get our additional hundreds. Well, we can't because there is none. So we have 7 qualified hundreds, but it has to be voted on.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to abstain, so I don't know what to do here.
I would just move it to the next meeting, Tom.
We got September, it's on the corner. Why keep holding this off?
Yeah, I don't see what, aside from prolonging this, and we're just gonna have to rush into it then, I think we should decide, if possible, decide tonight whether or not we're gonna send the letters, starting,
I think we still in the process of reconciling the two transfers that we voted on. I think if we have a meeting in a couple of weeks, we can still handle this and it won't be an issue.
well, whether or not we do any transfers, we're still gonna need to fill open positions.
Understood. I understand that, but we can deal with it in 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now.
If we're going,
Find out exactly.
Well, unfortunately, I think if we take a vote tonight, it's not gonna pass, so, I'm willing to wait till next month.
Paul Ranalone, Commissioner Ranalone,
Yes.
are we able to send them to CPAT? Isn't CPAT closed out until the end of the year?
Well, currently, 7 people that have 100 on the test have taken their CPAT. What I'm asking the board to do is approve sending letters to those 7 individuals so we can interview them for possible appointment to the fire department, and not have to rush into it,
This is just for the interview.
This is just for interviews. We're not gonna
Yeah,
decide.
so fine. If we're just if you're just interviewing, I'm happy to do that. These are for positions coming up after the transfer that are through attrition, correct?
Exactly.
Right.
So fine. Let's take a quick vote. We'll do that. We'll send them the letter.
Okay.
All right, so I don't have a resolution in front of me, but I'll do the best I can. The Board of Fire Commissioners wants to make a resolution to send a letter to the 7 candidates who have already successfully passed the CPAT to schedule interviews in the upcoming month in preparation to possibly hiring them in a September class.
second?
Well, we need a first?
I think your motion, sorry. You made the motion.
Okay, so Paul Ranalone will make first that motion, and Paul Carlo will second it, and we'll poll the ball. So Commissioner Ranalone,
Aye.
Commissioner Keating,
Aye.
and Commissioner Carlo,
Aye.
and Commissioner Roach will abstain. So that passes. Jamie has been given the authority to send out everyone that's already passed the CPAT a letter to schedule interviews for. I think that Paul Sweeney told us how to address that correctly. Perfect. All right.
Right. With the condition that, this is for the end of the year when it comes by attrition, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. That's all.
And since Commissioner Keating had mentioned about the transfers, we did successfully interview certain firefighters. We are just waiting for training records. We can't put them online until we know that they've been adequately trained. And once the state provides that information to us, then we'll move forward. But until then, it's in abeyance. Chester Heights update. Chief?
I spoke to Vinco office manager yesterday, Catherine Schaefer. She says they're waiting for a few minor revisions from Joe Paterno at the Eastchester Building Department. I believe one has to do with the materials on the doors to the boiler room and the basement doors and some lighting plans. So they were hoping that would be finished up sometime this week. Hopefully in a week or two we can get permits issued. At that point, they'll order the steel. They didn't want to order anything because if the town makes modifications to the drawings, then they have steel that they won't be able to use. So there'll be a little bit of a lag waiting for the materials to come in. But in the meantime, they want to get started on the tin ceiling. So, while they're waiting for the materials to come in, they can get started. I told them I would need a week to clear everybody out of the firehouse and get us moved into our alternate location that we're hopefully able to work out. So at this point, it looks like it's moving forward. We're just waiting on a few things from our engineer to clear up with the town. About the other end of that, moving out of Chester Heights to a new location, do you want me to address the lease or?
Sure.
Okay. So we've been negotiating with the town of Eastchester about using an alternate location in Chester Heights. We were granted permission very kindly from the Eastchester Historical Society to use their library building, which is located at 388 California Road. It's behind the Marble Schoolhouse. It's a modern building. It's not a 1855 building, so it has, bathrooms. And although there is a outhouse out in the backyard, I think the guys would prefer the indoor bathroom. We would have to make a few upgrades to it. The emergency lighting is not up to code. We would need to change out 2 fixtures. It would probably be a few $100s. We will have to repair the air conditioning system. If we sign the lease, that was part of the agreement. The Historical Society had got estimates. It was around $5,000 approximately from a local company. So hopefully it would still be in that price range. But the lease that we would sign with the town would be for $1 a month. $1 a month is quite reasonable. I guess it's just so that there's some sort of transaction, just to have it, documented that we are leasing it. If we do any changes, we have to bring the building back to exactly how we found it. If we're given the building in good condition, we have to return the building in good condition. The things we would move in is a couple of beds, a table, probably some chairs for the guys to sit at. So that's it. The board was provided with the lease. It went back and forth between our attorneys and the town attorneys over the last 10 days. But I believe it's been finalized now, and I think the board, if they're willing to do it, I wrote up a quick resolution. I don't know if you want me to read it or if you want to read my hand.
Sure, you can read the resolution.
Okay.
And you don't have an exact time frame, but it's...
Okay. Yeah, I just generalized. So I would request the board would make a motion to authorize Chief Tween to sign a lease agreement with the town of Eastchester for using as a temporary location to house the on-duty firefighters and apparatus. The building known as the Historical Society Library Building, located at 388 California Road, Bronxville, New York, 10708. The term of the lease is for 6 months, from June 2021 until December 21, 2021. The payment for the lease is agreed at $1 per month. The fire department will bring the emergency lighting in the building up to code, and the fire district will also repair the AC system in the building.
I will make a motion for that, and I will add one statement that the board gives Chief Tween the authority to sign the lease on behalf of the board. Can I have a second?
I second that.
Commissioner Carlo seconds, and I'll call vote. Commissioner Malone?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye. So the lease has been passed, and we'll move on, and hopefully the Chester Heights Firehouse will be completed shortly. So other or new business?
Hey, Tom, would you ask the residents or whoever's listening in to mute their phones?
Okay, if there's a resident listening in, could they mute their phone because it's making a lot of noise, a lot of background noise? So any other or new business? All right, local 916 comments?
Good evening. I'd just like to mention I guess a fire that took place about a week and a half ago. It's often been said that, we don't have a lot of fires here in Eastchester, and we don't, and that's a positive thing. But it's not the number of fires, it's whether you're prepared for the ones you have. That day, the closest firehouse was fully staffed. The companies got there very quickly, but there were 2 issues. The fire hydrant right in front of the house was out of service. The next fire hydrant was about 350 feet away. It was also a 90-degree day. And what the public got to realize is the firefighters are wearing the equivalent of snow pants and a parka while they work in a furnace. So because all hands were there was a positive outcome. All the little jobs that had to be done that you didn't prepare for were all done. And that's why you don't play the averages. You're fully prepared at all the time and with proper staffing. And with that, I'd like to commend all the firefighters that were there for the excellent job they did. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments? Please, Mr. Zuckerman.
Evening, everyone. Jeff Zuckerman. I live at 24 Bronx Street in Tuckahoe. It's been 9 months since I addressed you. I was here on September 26, 2020. The discussion was had outside at the firehouse in Eastchester regarding overtime, hiring, not hiring, 3 people at that time. What follows is a quote from Chief Tween, which I transcribed from a video of that meeting. Quote, "If we had hired the 3 people in February of 2020 for the March Academy, they would have graduated at the end of June and would have saved us $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime in 2020. And we would have been a lot closer to the $500,000 budgeted for 2020. By not hiring, we ran through that $500,000 by September 15th. End quote. All right, so the final figure for overtime for 2020 was $864,000. I thank Jamie and Marissa for providing me with that one figure that they said was the number for the year. So one more thing I want to point out before I continue is that at that meeting, I made an assertion, my assertion, that what Chief Tween was saying wasn't correct, and that in fact, the more people we hire, the more overtime there will be. That in fact, there's a direct correlation between the number of firefighters and the amount of overtime. The chief seemed to feel that by having more people, the overtime would have been less. None of us will know what the overtime would have been had we had those 3 people. But if the chief's right, it would have been $500,000, and Jamie had given us a figure for $300,000 for 3 people, new people with not with overtime, with retirement costs and health insurance. In the roughest of numbers, had we had $500,000 in overtime and $300,000 in firefighters, we still would have had $800,000 as a cost to the citizens of Eastchester. Instead, we had no cost for the new firefighters and $800,000 in overtime. All right. Now, those 3 people have been on the job every day of 2021, the ones that we couldn't get to hire in 2000. So they've been here every day. So that $300,000 is now part of the budget for the townspeople to pay. So I'm asking for an approximate figure of what we've done so far in overtime in the first 6 months of the year, 5.5 months, and what we project the overtime to be for 2021. And if it's only $500,000, as was told to us by Chief Tween, then I will say, I'm sorry, and I will never show up to another meeting again. So tell me, we have the $300,000 in salary. Do we have, by the end of December, are we projecting only $500,000 in overtime? Is that true or not? And where are we about? What are we going to be? Is it still going to be $800,000? I mean, what are we thinking? Where are we now? We have numbers by the end of May. I mean, we do numbers to the end of May, right? I mean, we do accounting every month. So what was it at the end of May?
Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Good here. We have spent $312,000 through June 11th.
Through June 11th, 300. So do we assume it'll only be 600 by the end of the year?
No, I think it's going to be higher than that.
Because the summer months are coming, or?
Right now, we're down 10 people off the line. We have 6 people on long-term sick leave, or 5 people now. 1 guy just came back. And we have 4 positions that we are not staffed for. So being down 10 people for the whole summer, our overtime is going to be higher than last year.
So it's going to be over $864,000.
I believe I would use the term way over.
Way over. So
I
we're going to
believe
be
so.
at least $1 million
That's my opinion.
in overtime, plus the
Our treasurer could
$300,000 of
give
the
a
new
more
people.
accurate-
So we got $1.3 million as opposed to last year's $800,000. So we're up $500,000. And I submit to you that you're now going to hire more people, and it will just keep going up. Again, I will say, the only control of anything that you guys have is hiring. You have no control over the overtime. You don't. That's it. I said it last time, and it's true. Here we go. We're going up $500,000 in overtime, and you have the 3 people.
We just went through a pandemic, Mr. Zuckerman.
I know.
We have more people on sick leave than we did on a normal year because of COVID.
You know
so
what?
if that's not a good enough reason, I'm sorry, you know, some of the COVID is part of the overtime, and we may be able to get reimbursed for some of that through FEMA grants.
Okay.
I hope we will.
Last year in September, it was, we should have had the 3 people, and we wouldn't have blown through the $500,000. This year, it was the pandemic. So I promise you, I will be here next year, and I will quote again what you said in 2020, and I will quote again what you said tonight about there's a pandemic, and that's why we're going to be at 1-point-something million in overtime. And then we'll have this same discussion again. And we'll see what the answer is for 2022.
We're short more people right now off the payroll than we were last year. And we have twice as many people on sick leave than we did last year. So will we go back to a normal sick leave next year? I can't predict the future. I hope so. Our average is probably about 3 people on long-term disability because firefighting is dangerous work. People get hurt. So if we can, you know, try to get back to a more normal number of if we hire vacant positions and we only have 3 people on sick leave, there's going to be a lot less overtime. I mean, it just makes common sense that there's going to be less overtime if you stay. I know we disagree.
Nothing makes common sense.
We have to agree to disagree, but ask our professional treasurer, who's a CPA, that if we had those people hired last year, would it have eliminated some overtime from last year? And if we had filled the 4 positions for the February Academy that we are now vacant, and we're going to be vacant all through the summer, they're not going to hit the road until December, will that make a difference in the overtime? And in my opinion, without question, it makes a difference. There will be less overtime if you staff your positions that are off the payroll through retirements. One guy transferred to another department. So we have 4 people off the payroll that we could hire for.
And it's your position that it will not only save overtime, but it will save more overtime than we're paying in salaries.
I can see.
So it's not just a wash.
Those vacant positions create overtime. If somebody's out because there's a retirement, I don't have the person to cover the vacation. I don't have the person to cover the personal day. And I have to make those phone calls for 2 or 3 overtimes a day. It's not fun, you know? It's like every single day I have to get 2 or 3 overtimes because I'm short 9 people right now that I should have on the line.
Okay, and so it's my assertion, if we had the 9 people, the overtime budget might be $1.5 million or $2 million. That's
The only
just my
overtime we would have is the officers' float days, which are their personal days. That's, they take them when it creates overtime. They're allowed to. It's not, they don't have to take them when there's coverage. There's going to be a certain amount of overtime no matter what. It's built into the CBA. And, the board negotiated a sick leave incentive that creates overtime as well. It's straight time overtime, which saves us money, but that's built-in overtime that you're going to have as an expense. And there's 2 training days that the members get because we want to be able to do live fire training. We don't have facilities in town. So that is also the training overtime. So the overall number that you keep throwing out there, the 800,000 or the 600,000, all that overtime is combined in. It's separated in the budget, and it'll say firefighter overtime, training overtime, and like that. But you're not lumping it separately. You're putting it all into a big pile, and it makes it sound higher. It's like some of that overtime, even if nobody ever called in sick, it would still be a certain amount of overtime because of negotiated benefits.
But the vast majority of it is not the stuff you
Sure, when you're short 10 people, yeah, there's a lot of sick leave overtime. Or just people that have not been replaced. So we had 3 people retire and 1 person left our department to go to another department. So we have 4 people that we're no longer paying the salaries for. So that money is a savings, like you said, but that's not reflected in the overtime. That money doesn't get moved from that line into the overtime line. I don't believe we might have moved a budget transfer. Jamie can say we did a budget transfer, but it didn't specifically come possibly from that salary line. I'm not sure where the budget transfer came in January when they have to even up all the lines. But, we do have savings. So we had a captain retire. We made another captain, but that opened up a lieutenant position. A lieutenant, 2 lieutenants were made provisional. So right now we have 4 firefighter slots that we're not paying salary for.
I think that's interesting. I mean, I really do. I would love to be privy to those numbers. I mean, if in fact there's on this side salaries we're not paying.
Right.
And
That's true.
that would be interesting to know.
That's
But
true.
last year it was the 3 salaries we weren't paying, that the 3 guys that you said Had we had them, the overtime would have gone down. But the overtime, okay,
It
whatever.
didn't go down because we never hired them. We hired them in September, not in the February or March academy. So I didn't have them for the summer. That's when the majority of the personal days and the vacation days are. So when we don't hire for the spring academy, I don't have that extra manpower out of the academy ready to go. When we hire in September, they're in the academy for 3.5 months. So they don't come until Christmas time. They're not on the line. So even though you hired them in September, you can say, hey, we hired 4 people. We don't get to see them. They're up in Valhalla at the Westchester Fire Academy for 3.5 months, 17 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever it is now. So we don't get to see them until the end of the year. So even though they're hired, they're not on the line as a career firefighter until
This is identical
they
to
graduate.
this is the same discussion we had last September.
I'm trying to.
Same discussion, I just read it to you. Had we had those people, then we would have saved $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime. But we have those 3 people now, and we're going to be up another $500,000 in overtime.
But
That's
we
just-
lost 4 other people.
4
We have
other
those
people.
3
So it'll
people.
never- how many
We're
people-
actually down more than we were last summer. When
More than we
having
were
this
last summer.
discussion.
Even though we have the new 3 people, we're down even more.
Because 4 more people retired. We had 3 people retire last year, and 4 people are gone now.
Okay.
That's, to me, we're just going to agree to disagree. I think that it's important for the district to hire the positions. You're also lowering the average age. If you don't want to hire and you just want to pay overtime to guys that are more experienced, that's fine. But, that's a decision the board has to make. It's like,
I understand. Thank you very much. I'll
Thank
see you in
Jeff.
another 6 months.
Have a great day. We'll see
Thank
you in 9 months. Please.
Good evening, Tony Fiore, Tuckahoe. June 30th is our Mamaroneck Parade. We would like permission to use the utility vehicle, so to pull our handcart, if it's possible.
We've been advised not to do that for liability reasons.
Okay,
I apologize, Tony.
it's all right, it didn't hurt to ask.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
It was asked for you, but we just weren't able to do it.
Anthony Laurie. Commissioner Roach, could you tell us why?
Counsel, legal
Counsel
counsel
told-
said
counsel told
it's
us that?
risk that's not really worth taking.
Okay. All right, I understand. But regards to what the chief was trying to explain about overtime, why weren't a lot of the citizens of the community here when we had a fire commissioner that thought that everything could be solved by bringing things to court? And he brought things to court. And it cost the taxpayers plenty of money. Plenty of money. We had to pay somebody off after the commissioner took him to court. They had to pay him $40,000, taxpayers' money. He also took the town to court. I'm just bringing something up so everybody could understand that it's not the overtime that's killing us also. He brought the town to court to fight the fire hydrant case, and he lost that one too. It cost the taxpayers money here too, and nobody was here to see that. The same individual used to call the lawyer 2 to 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a week, and that was a cash register flinging all the time, and the taxpayers paid for that. Why weren't these people here then to find out where that money was going? It was pitiful. And every time he took someone to court, the taxpayers paid for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Any other comments from the public? Commissioner comments?
You have your chief's report?
well, I didn't think I was going to give it, but I was going to ask if, let me see, I shared with my report. I request permission to have internet installed in the Historical Society Library. The current county pricing is $79.90 for 100 megabit download, 35 megabit upload, and $9.99 a month for the cable modem, so it'll be about $90 a month. But I'd also like to have the internet service installed in Station 2 and 3 in anticipation of tablets and computers being proposed at next month's meeting. And also, we're upgrading our phones. and they require an internet connection to work. They're going to be IP phones, the upgraded phones. The phone upgrade was previously approved by the board, I believe, about a year and a half ago, and it was kind of put on hold during COVID. And we're going to be switching over to the new phones in about a week or 10 days. So basically, I'm asking to permission to install county internet service, which is Optimum Online. It's 100 megabits at about $90 a month per location. So the additional locations would be Station 2, Station 3, and the library at the Historical Society Schoolhouse.
What about TV at the library?
I mean, we could do that if the board wants to pay for TV for the members while they're, you know, out of the firehouse. I know they have their own coffee fund TV at the firehouse. But if we wanted to cover it as an inconvenience, because they're going to be in a small room, they're not going to have the normal quarters that they do. You know, I was going to bring up next month maybe some sort of stipend like we did for Station 6 for meals, because they're not going to be allowed to have any sort of heating elements other than a microwave. They're not going to allowed to have a toaster oven. We may be able to, they can bring a barbecue, but that has to be outside away from the building. So first, I would ask for permission to, at county contract pricing, install internet at those 3 locations, Tuckahoe Station 2, Bronxville Station 3, and the library at the Marble Schoolhouse.
Is that replacing the existing service or brand
We
new
don't have
service?
any internet service at any of those locations currently. We only have it at headquarters and Station 5. It's at Station 5 for fire prevention, and it's at headquarters for the admin offices and the officers.
Well, I think that's not an issue. I think we should do that, and most likely they'll get TV through the internet.
Well, we would probably have to pay a little bit extra for that because the cable boxes are a monthly charge and all that kind of stuff. So if you wanted me to provide TV, I could do that for the Marble Schoolhouse
Well, I'm
library.
saying once we get them the internet, they'll be able to figure it out on their
Okay,
own.
yep, yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve this request from the chief to install internet services for these, however long we're using the Historical Society, and then in Station 2 and Station 3. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ranalone. So Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach will say aye, so that's approved, Chief. All right, awesome, thank you.
If I could just say one more thing, since I'm not giving a report, just the first of what was on my report is I'd like to commend the members of Group 2 under Cat and Calby for their actions at a house fire on Johnson Road on Saturday, June 5th. It was a hot day, the closest hydrant was inoperable, and there was 0 visibility conditions inside the house. They quickly located and extinguished the fire, minimizing the damage to the home. The resident was able to self-evacuate. She was transported to the hospital by evac. So thank you to the members, thank you to evac, and the Eastchester Police Department for their assistance at the scene.
Thank you, Chief. And I'll also mention that we have some young heroes in town also. I was reading on Facebook. I won't mention their names because I don't have permission, but we're talking about 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds smelling smoke in their neighborhood. They did everything right. They immediately went to an adult and asked them to contact emergency, 911. And then they went to the house and they saw the lady evacuating and asked if there was anything they could do for her. I will make this one comment. I'm sure that everyone's talked about these brave youngsters and what a great job they did. And of course, their peers, other young children are going to hear that and may want to try to emulate it. So please, children, if you see anything wrong, notify an adult. That's exactly the right thing to do. Get 911. Please, if someone was to say, yes, my pet is in that building, do not go into the building to retrieve a pet. We thank you for your bravery and your courage, but that is not the thing to do. And I ask all the parents, because this is this will be talked about in town for a little while, to review that with their children, that if they see an emergency and they want to help, go to an adult, but please do never enter a structure that might be on fire. All right, anything else? We'll make a motion to adjourn. Oh, please.
Commissioner Roach, is it possible that we could have the spare engine driven over there with paid personnel? And if it, at any cost, the volunteers would be willing to pay that overtime on the spare engine? I'm not talking about taking an engine out of service. I remember 2 years ago, we had mentioned this and it was told that we would reconsider it at a later time on another parade if we send an apparatus, but then the pandemic came about and all that, so that's 2 years has passed. Is it possible that we could, Chief, if it's approved, could we get the spare engine to go, not removing anything active, and if it cost overtime, the Volunteer Officers Association would be glad to pay the man's overtime,
If
whether
the
it's
board,
half a day, full day, whatever.
if the board was willing to approve that, we hire guys out for Lawrence Hospital when their standpipe is down or when certain big building sprinkler systems are down. You wouldn't be taking away from the staffing of the fire district. So if the board was open to it, I would be fine with it, I would be a board decision.
I would make that motion, that if we can approve of it, try to get the spare engine over to the Mamaroneck Parade, driven by a firefighter on overtime.
And when the parade reaches the parade grounds, like always, the engine could return to quarters or return to where the spare engine is located.
I'll make that motion if anybody wants to second it.
With manpower?
I'm going to make a comment, Paul, that the attorney, like Tom said, gave us some advice. We didn't throw any variables around. I would caution to go forward on something like that once we've already gotten advice, so I'm going to leave it at that.
I have to agree with that, Tony.
I didn't hear what he said. What did he
He
say?
basically said we were given legal counsel not to do it, it's too much risk, and I wouldn't be able to change my mind. I can't take on the risk.
Commissioner Roach, years ago, we used to send a ladder truck and an engine there, and we did the same thing. Once it reached the parade grounds, they returned to quarters.
That's awesome. I mean, first of all, the volunteers did a great job in the 20th century for Eastchester Town. But that's not the case anymore, so we have to live in where we're at and move forward there. The board cannot take the risk on. I apologize, Tony.
You don't have to apologize. We could see where you guys are coming from. We just asked a simple request.
And we entertained
we don't,
it, we gave us our answers.
We
Tony.
don't
We
come
can't fight our
here,
answers.
we don't come here asking for much, and you know that. We do not come here asking for much, and whenever there's a chance that we could help out, we are right there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other comments or thoughts?
I just have one other comment.
Vote on that. Paul seconded, and the other guy on
No one seconded, no one made anything.
Paul seconded.
He made a
made a
motion,
motion,
nobody
it wasn't
seconded it. Come on, Anthony,
Okay.
don't embarrass yourself.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
I just have a few comments about the fire that was about a week and a half or so ago in the north end of town. In the past several months, there have been 2 fires in which the resident of the house or apartment was home, and they were lucky, both of them were lucky to get out of their apartment or their house when they did, because if they had been in the house, in where they were, within a couple of minutes, they probably would not have been able to get out. And I would like to encourage every resident to get at least a minimum of a battery-operated smoke and CO detector on every level of your house. Basement, first floor, and second floor. Minimum, battery-operated. If you want to go for a hardwired system that's hooked up to a central station, that would be ideal, because then you're not going to rely on it, whether anybody's home, to hear the alarm going off. If the alarm goes off while you're out, maybe you left something on the stove, or there was a short circuit in something electrical or something like that, the alarm will go off, and they'll notify the central station. They will notify our dispatcher up in Valhalla, and we will be dispatched to your location. And you don't have to even be there for that to happen. So I'm making a recommending that everybody in town, please get at least one battery-operated smoke detector for every level of your house. Smoke and CO detector. And if you have the wherewithal, the means to do it, get a hardwired system hooked up to a central station. It could mean the difference between life and death.
Well, with
Good job,
that said, we just celebrated Memorial Day weekend, so we'll end the meeting with a moment of silence for all those in the military and all first responders that made the supreme sacrifice. I'll make a motion to join the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very
All
much.
right.